All right, we're here with Lars Ulrich, of course, of Metallica. 30th anniversary coming up next week. That's crazy.
There's so many anniversaries.
30th anniversary of Kill 'Em All.
Oh yeah, yeah. Who would have thought? 30 years ago, we were up in Rochester, New York, former home of Kodak, and well, it may still be the home of Kodak. And now we're sitting here, and we have a movie, and we're still somewhat functioning. And yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah.
Now I've read a lot about Through the Never. I've seen the trailer. I don't have any idea what it is.
And you know what? I've been dealing with this movie for 3 years. I don't have any idea what it is either.
Try to explain it to me. Please.
I've learned it. I've heard myself use the following word a lot today: ambiguous.
Ambiguous.
There's a big word. So, I guess on a serious note, you know, if you look at Hetfield's lyrics and all that stuff over the years, I mean, if there's anything that we advocate in Metallica, and believe me, it's not much, but if there's anything we advocate, then it is that you sort of figure it out for yourself. So instead of me sitting here and carving it out in stone or having the trailer or any of this stuff sort of explained, we like to be a little more abstract and a little more loose around the edges, I guess.
If you wanted to, could you explain it to me?
Well, yeah, okay. It's the story of a guy named Trip, and Trip is played by the wonderful Dane DeHaan, and Trip is what we in our world would call a runner, and he works at the Metallica gig at the local Enormo Dome, and he is sent on an errand to go out and retrieve something for the band. And then his evening goes sort of horribly wrong, and so it's kind of it's his story, and you follow him through his escapades, and then you sort of keep cutting back to the Metallica show that sort of unfolds in real time. So it's these two, I guess, parallel universes that unfold at the same time, and so Trip and his world, and then the Metallica gig. That's probably the easiest way to explain it. But it's not, you know, this is not a kind of a movie that has a very, you know, I was talking to a guy 2 days ago who was the first journalist that I've spoken to who has seen the movie. And he used the comparison to Fight Club, which was, as far as I'm concerned, a very positive one, because I love Fight Club, and that's a cool movie.
Of course.
But he said it had the same kind of ambiguity as Fight Club, you know, where's it set, what's going on, it's this whole sort of unique, you know, individual world, and you know, our movie is not set in a particular city in a particular time. It's very sort of could be anywhere, and what unfolds is not really sort of described or carved out in stone. It's really more about Trip and about his kind of, I guess, his tenacity and his kind of, you know, wanting to fulfill this errand. And there's a particular bag that has something in it that he holds on to for dear life. And I probably shouldn't say much more than that.
Do we ever find out what that is?
I believe that Dane DeHaan may be the only person on the planet who knows what's in that bag. And he may take that to his grave.
Would you say it's easier to make something ambiguous or more difficult to make something that's that open
Kevin's
to it?
curious because his sexuality is in fact ambiguous. So he wants to make sure he nails that down.
Yeah, it's a great thing in interviews to say, I don't know. It's always where you go when you're just, you know, stuck for an answer. You know what? We spent a lot of time wading through Hollywood, meeting A-list directors and trying to find somebody who would undertake this journey. You know, I figured out that when you go to Hollywood and you try to explain something to them that has no real point of reference, because the movie that we wanted to make had no, you know, you sort of sit there and go, it's Saving Private Ryan meets Star Trek meets, you know, Grown Ups 2 or something. Then people can sit there and go, we can put that together. Do you know what I mean? But if you sit there and go, you know, we want to make a movie that is set in a concert setting. It has a dramatic narrative to it, and it is played out on this big stage that had all this shtick from Metallica's 30-year career. All these directors and all these Hollywood executives that I met with all looked at me like I came from some other planet. And so when I finally met Nimrod, who sort of just nodded along and said, I'm in. That sounds really fun. He kind of had a.
Could you see that he got it right away?
Well, he had a. What I like to say is that he has a kind of a madness in his eyes, and he just felt game, and he was into it. I don't know if there was anything to really get other than he was kind of prepared to take the leap with us.
Whatever it was going to
sort
be.
of jump with us, and that's what we do a lot in our band. Is that we sort of embark on all these creative. Endeavors, but we don't really know. We may give the impression that we know what we're doing, but we rarely know what we're doing. But that's also the beauty of it, because we just jump and then we hope we land safe. But Nimrod went away for 3 months, created the character of Trip, created this whole story, and then we sat and read the script, and it was one of these like, should we read it this way? Should we read it? Wait, what's he actually saying?
Perfect.
But it was beautiful and crazy and full of energy and abstract kind of just action stuff, and Trip was somebody who we could really identify with, who was kind of a loner, a little bit of an outcast, but somebody who was still had a particular kind of belief in something and a mission and something, and we felt that he was sort of, if you're ever gonna, the hardest thing to do is define a Metallica fan.
Right.
And if you put 10 of them up against that wall, you're going to get 10 very different people. But Trip felt like the typical. You could use him as our typical Metallica fan, and so we went along with it. And Nim was game, and we were all game, and off we embarked on this crazy adventure.
You talked about how hard it was to bring it to Hollywood, the idea, because it was hard to categorize, in a commercial way. Did you relate to that when you guys first tried to start Metallica? Did you have a hard time really bringing it to mainstream music executives and things, because it kind of had elements of punk aggression, but yet it had, classic metal to it, and you were new to the scene. Did you guys struggle with that in the same way?
We've always felt like outsiders, and I think that when I try to figure out Metallica's place in all this, I look at Metallica as living in our own bubble. We live in our own bubble, float around in our own sort of autonomous universe, and we don't cater to anybody else's fashions or waves or patterns or trends or any of that type of stuff. We just kind of exist in our own, when we're very independent. And fortunately, we're very grateful and appreciative of the fact that we're also sort of financially independent, so we don't have to kind of go and knock on doors and get, financial partners and all that type of stuff. So we can sort of embark on all these crazy things on our own. And we don't have anybody sitting there and finger whacking us and telling us what we can and can't do. But I guess there's a correlation to that. We've just never, Hollywood is a difficult place to kind of, I guess, crash it. Hollywood's very protective of itself.
Yeah.
And they don't sort of just let anybody in there. And I think, without being disrespectful, because there are lots of beautiful people in Hollywood. I have lots of friends in the film world, but Hollywood itself, sometimes I feel there's a little bit of a, sort of like, oh, you little musician, it's sort of like musicians are kind of second-rate citizens, it's sort of the perception is that we don't really know what we're doing because we're in music, and so when we knock on the door to the filmmaking universe, it's like, okay, let us show you what really goes on here, little music person, and we don't take to that well, of course, but we finally figured it. This has been a 3-year journey, and we've learned a lot. And the bottom line is that Metallica loves to throw itself out into these kind of, I guess, uncomfortable, kind of out of our safe zone, out of our comfort zone, and so we go and get inspired and kind of invigorated by all this craziness, and then we go back into our own little Metallica world and make another record and do our thing, and it's kind of great that we can go on all these crazy journeys.
This movie's coming out late September, is that right?
The fourth week of September 27th. Yeah.
And it's going to be an IMAX, 3D, the whole thing, is that?
Yeah, we got it's We actually have a deal, which is pretty cool. It's playing on every single IMAX screen in North America exclusively for the first week,
Oh, that's
which is a kind of I guess a first time for that. The other movies that play in IMAX also play on regular screens, and then the next week, the second week, it goes wide, as the term is. I've learned so much movie lingo.
I'll bet.
It goes wide, ladies and gentlemen. It goes wide the second week.
Have you heard the sound? Is the sound more impressive?
We've been dealing with the sound the last month.
That's gotta be huge.
Yeah, we locked Picture a month ago, and
Locked Picture.
Yeah, there
All
you
right.
go. Yeah, and now we're dealing with. We've been doing the sound grind, and we're almost done. Next comes color correction. And considering this movie's coming out in 6 weeks, it's pretty amazing that it's this close down to the wire. But that's kind of how we make records.
But I would think the sound would be the most important thing to you guys. I mean, I'm sure that the
They're all- you know what?
visuals are as well, but at heart, you're a band, you make music, you want it to sound good. No?
Yeah, I guess, no, of course we want it to sound good, but I can't say one's more important. I mean, they're all, what I've figured out is that they say that there's 3 movies. There's the movie that's written in the pages, then there's the movie that you shoot, and then there's a movie you put together in what's called post. And I can definitely attest to that. And the post has been going on for about a year. So if you compare post to when you make records as the mix, well, the mixing is a much shorter piece of it. Mixing is like 10%.
Right.
But in movie making, like the post is like 50% or maybe even more. So it's all this crazy stuff. And it's been really cool to sit there and be part of the editing and be part of the special effects. But the sound is, it sounds like, insanely great. And on all these crazy systems we've been mixing up at Paramount the last couple days or the last couple of weeks, where they did the last James Bond film and the last couple of Tom Cruise. This is like, you sit there and go like, there are no movie theaters that sound this good, but I'm
Right.
glad I'm in this space right here, because the minute it's playing down on my street, it's like a little rinky-dinky system, but it's pretty cool. And it sounds giant. And the 3D element is really to try to get a little more depth in there. It's not so much like, here's the drumstick in your face type of corny stuff. It's really what we try to do. Most concert films have a tendency to be shot from the audience.
Right.
So you're kind of like shooting. This is what they do a lot in Hollywood. They do this.
Okay.
So,
The 2 fingers?
Yeah, it's the 2 fingers. Yeah, I thought it was a lot of this, but it's actually this. They do this. So they have a tendency to shoot from the outside, looking like this way. But what we're doing a lot is we're shooting from the stage out, and so you really get more of a sense, instead of like watching Metallica, it's more like being with Metallica up on stage. So we're really trying to do this kind of sensation of being in it rather than watching it. And with the added depth of 3D, that just takes that to another level.
Yeah.
Listen, the last couple of weeks I've been watching it in 2D. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, the 3D is a miraculous next thing. But like increasingly, like Pixar films and those types, it's just more to give it a different sense of depth,
Right.
perspective. There you go.
You just feel like you're in the middle of it rather than
Yeah,
watching
exactly.
something.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, you have such a beefy catalog. Why the song "Through the Never" for the title? Did it have any relation to the movie?
Again, I'll play my ambiguous card.
Right.
It's just we wanted. There was a bunch of different things. We felt that too many of the titles we came up with kind of put it into defined it too much, or that sounds too much like a horror film, or that sounds too much like an action film, or whatever. And Through the Never just sounded so weird and random and abstract that it seemed like a cool title.
And why did you decide Comic-Con to be the place to roll out the press for the movie?
Well, it's, in case you hadn't noticed, it's sort of the premier place in the
It's a
United
thing to
States
do, yeah.
to do this. Toronto, which is obviously in Canada. I was in Cannes for 6 days with this movie in May. This is kind of the cool place to do this in America. Let's not BS each other.
Yeah.
But there's also here, this is really, what I've taken away from this is that people here this is real fans. It's real people that are really passionate about this, and ultimately we identify a lot with, you know, I'm a film geek, and we're all kind of loners and somewhat outsiders, and I just think we relate to the sort of the bigger picture, what this experience means to people in terms of finding strength in numbers and realizing that there are many more people out there like yourself, and that gives you a sense of belonging to something. And then, you know, but this is obviously the primary place to roll this type of thing out. So we're psyched to be here, but we're also psyched that it's been such a warm. People have been. It's been really cool today. People have been really friendly and embracive, and it's not, you know, a bunch of like 60-year-old music critics sitting
Right.
around belittling you and smoking cigarettes without filters and stuff. You know, it's like it's people that actually really care about what you're doing. You know.
Yeah, we were commenting on the way in that the enthusiasm here is palpable. You can just feel it. People are here to have a good time, not to act too cool for school.
Absolutely. I saw, you know, Morgan Spurlock did a film a couple years ago about Comic-Con, and you really just, you know, he nailed it. And you really just get a sense of this is real people.
Yeah.
These are the real people that ultimately you speak to. This is not about glamour and glitz and, you know, all this type of stuff. These are all the real folks out there that are the, you know, the sort of the receiving end of whatever it is you do.
Lars, good luck. This sounds like a great thing. I can't wait to
Thank
see
you.
it.
Yeah, we'll be rolling through LA right when this thing is unleashed on the world. So hopefully we'll see you again.
Dude, thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.